Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum. Recently, with the COVID-19 pandemic, our children have been spending time at home. And it may have been the case that you've given them a task to do and they found it difficult and they gave up really quickly. It could be the case on a normal day your child finds it difficult to go out into the rain because they might get wet. It could be the case that your child falls down and scratches himself or herself and finds it difficult and gets into an emotion because they can't deal with it. And this is really important, that one of the traits that we can teach our children to bounce back. This is known as the bounce ball quality. It's a powerful skill that we can teach our children, which is never to give up. And it is something that we are partly born with, you could argue, because toddlers, when they are learning to walk, they fall, they get up and they try again. Partly it's something innate within our human qualities, but it is something that we also have to enhance. It's something that we have to teach our children to be able to do. So another word for this bounce ball quality is resilience. Very important word, a very important character trait that we have to teach our children, so that not only can they bounce back from the situation that we find ourselves in today, but in everyday situation, when they come through difficulties, when they come through a problem and this problem befalls them, they find it difficult to deal with that problem. And we have to give them the qualities, we have to give them the skills and the tools that's needed for them to then bounce back. And this word is resilience. Resilience, what does resilience actually mean? It means to recover from difficulties and toughness really quickly. It means to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. What better time than now, when children aren't able to go out and they must be going through a lot of difficulties, not being able to see their teachers, not being able to see other friends, not being able to see their loved ones, grandparents, cousins, and being able to go out normally. This is one of the toughest situations our children are facing probably in their whole lifetime. So this quality trait, this character trait called resilience or bounce ball quality, it's so essential that we spend time teaching them this quality. If you think about one of the ayahs in the Qur'an, or surah in fact, Surah Luqman, where Luqman alayhi salam, he teaches his son this important quality. He says, Ya bunayya aqimi salah. Ya bunayya aqimi salah. O my son, establish prayer. Wa'mur bil ma'rufi wanha 'anil munkar. And then he says, enjoin what is right and forbid what is bad. Wasbir ala ma asabaka. And this is the key quality that I'm referring to here, which is the resilience quality, which is to do with sabr, which is to do with perseverance, which is to do with patience. He said, and be patient over what befalls you. Be patient over what befalls you. Wasbir ala ma asabaka. Inna dhalika min azmi al-umur. Indeed, all that is of the matters requiring determination. So Luqman alayhi salam understood this as a father, as a parent, that yes, prayer is important, connection with God is important, all of these things are important, but we have to teach our children to be able to deal with difficulties when they arise, where the problems when they arise. And here, sabr, which can't be properly translated into English just by through patience. I would say from all the readings of the word sabr and tafsir and so on, the key quality of resilience, to be able to bounce back from what befalls you, difficulties and toughness that you have to go through, is an essential meaning of the word sabr. And there are lots of examples with Yusuf alayhi salam, and of course the example of Ayyub alayhi salam, who in a way he exemplifies this quality of being resilient, being able to bounce back again and again. And the Prophet's advice in one of the hadith, famous one that we know is so essential to this. He says, how wonderful is the affair of a believer, for his affairs are all good. And this applies to no one but somebody who has faith. If something good happens to him, he is thankful for it. If something good happens, Alhamdulillah, I'm thankful for it. And that is good for him. If something bad happens to him, he hears, bears it with patience, and that is good for him. And this is mentioned in Sahih Muslim. So whatever the situation is, but this requires the person of faith or a person who has that quality of resilience to be able to do that. A person who is not resilient will give in to depression, give in to the situation, give in to sadness, give in to anxiety, give in to not performing the task at hand. So all sorts of things could result as a result of not having that quality. And it's so essential that we as parents not only teach that to our children, but it's something that we try and live with in our daily life. So we ourselves are embodiment of that resilience or bounce ball quality. So just remember that we already have children who have made a good start, okay? Because it's within their fitrah, it's within their innate quality to be able to bounce back. But as time goes by, they are taught that they should give up. As time goes by, as they grow older, if you think about younger children, they're willing to take more risks. And as they grow, they're constantly analyzing, constantly thinking. And perhaps as adults, we ourselves become less resilient as we grow. And so therefore, learning this skill and to be able to apply it in our daily life, constantly reviewing this is so important. So it's really important that we keep this in mind. And this bounce ball quality will really increase the children's resourcefulness, their ability to adapt. Because resilience is not just about when a problem occurs. Resilience is about change as well, when changes happen. And what is one of the changes that perhaps some of our children could be going through right now? It could be that they've lost one of their grandparents, or both, or an uncle or an aunt. The change itself that they're having to live through, not going to school every day, not being able to be with their friends, not being able to go out even to the park, not being able to go shopping, not being able to take part in play and learn activities. This is about adaptability, and this is what resilience and this bounce ball quality helps us to do, to be able to adapt, to be able to problem solve. And this is why I always say that this resilience is not just a faith-based quality that helps us to be faithful to our deen, but actually it will help us to not only live a good life, but actually even to do well in our academic subjects. Many of you might be thinking, you know, we need to spend a lot of time getting our children to do lots of maths and lots of English and lots of these academic subjects. But actually, this is a real good time to teach certain character traits. And one of the things that I'm going through today is about resilience, and it's about problem solving. Ask them and give them the opportunities to solve problems. It could be a problem that you're going through yourself as a family. Talk to the children, your own children, about it, and try to solve these problems together. Try to look at the problem itself. Try to analyze what the problem is and what the solutions could be. This is also building their resilience, coping with things, being optimism. One of the things that we learn is that optimism is an aspect of Iman. Pessimism, to look very bleakly about life, to think of darker times only, and to think of the future in a very dark light, is something that is against faith. And so therefore, to be somebody who is a mu'min, he's always hopeful. She's always thinking of what's good that will come. So it's really important to teach them this sense of optimism and flexibility, because resilience is about flexibility. It's about being able to deal, as we mentioned before, about adapting to situations, but as well as being flexible about what you can and can't do. Now, one thing to keep in mind, according to various studies that have shown that in the first 10 years, boys are less resilient than girls. So that's something to keep in mind, that perhaps girls become less resilient in their teenage years when there is pressure from media comes along. There's different types of pressure that comes along. So whereby you might get very much complacent about your girl who by the age of 10, 11 shows a lot of resilience, being able to deal with things, and focus a lot more on the boys. But it's really important to keep that difference in mind. This might not be the same from boy to girl to girl. It could be something that you need to look at your own children to support them. But that's something to keep in mind as we move forward. Now, what are the secrets? What are the secrets to resilience? And I present here to you 4 key things that is so important to really teach this character trait of resilience and bounce ball quality. The first one is a stable family. Where there is a stable family, where people getting along with each other, people work with each other, that kind of thing really helps the children to be able to be more resilient. A sense of belonging. It's so important that children feel comfortable about who they are, where they belong, and they're very clear about where they belong. My son would often say to me, I'm very clear, I am British, I'm a Muslim, and he would say to me, you're a Bangladeshi, or you're Asian. You know, that kind of thing. He's very, very clear in his mind about where he belongs and where he needs to go. And of course, that's something that we have to develop as they grow. But this sense of belonging, this sense of feeling that I belong to a particular community, or part of this family, or whatever it is so important. Self-worth. So important again that we teach the children to have this self-worth, the confidence, not overconfidence, but a sense of feeling that they have a worth, they have a contribution to make, they have something that they can give back to themselves and to their families and those around them. And they also, and this kind of connects with the last one, which is they have a realistic view of their strengths and weaknesses. So they know what their strengths are, and they're very clear about their weaknesses. Of course, very younger children, they may be less aware, but that's something that is going to help us to teach them to be self-critical and to look at the strengths that they have and to build on their strengths. If they have a particular strength, try to enhance that strength. If they have a particular area that they need to work on, again, try and see if they can be given the opportunity to build on those. But they have a realistic sense of that. These are the 4 key secrets to building good resilience. The other point I want to make here is, if you think about what Islam teaches us, is that we will face trials and tribulations. The word fitna is used in the Qur'an, which encompasses all of this. And one of the key words that is often used is tests, that we will face through different types of tests. And various Imams have said that this pandemic that we're facing through right now is like a test. It's a test to see, in a sense, they're not using this word, but they're actually saying it in this way, that this is a test to see our resilience as believers, our resilience as a community, our resilience as teachers, our resilience as Imams, our resilience as parents, our resilience in whatever capacity that we have. We are perhaps seeing our resilience as a country, as a British nation, as our resilience as an NHS. We will face through these different kinds of tests. So the fitna is something that is understood, that is going to be part of life. And teaching children that there will be times when there will be happier times and there will be difficult times, and to overcome those difficulties is really important. So how do we build that resilience? What kinds of things do we need to do? And here you can think of the 7, one of the US specialists on adolescent medicine, he gives the 7 C's, and he says these are the things that we have to build: competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution, coping, and control. Really important you just kind of think about those 7 C's, and how do we build our competence, how do we build our confidence of our children. Connection, they need to have, there's different ways of looking at connection. A connection to their their school, connection to their friends, connection to their family, their community, their country, character. And if you think about resilience is a major character trait. Contribution. How are they contributing? What kind of contribution can they make? Coping with things, and control. So if you think about what Islam says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. One of the remedies that Islam gives is dhikrullah, is remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because it says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ, verily, is it not by the remembrance of Allah do hearts find contentment? Another verse, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That, O mankind, O humankind, there has come to you instruction from your Lord and healing for what is in the breasts and guidance and mercy for the believers. So there are, within our Islamic tradition, we can find Islamic ways of building this sense of bounce ball quality. And one of the things I would advise everyone to do is teach your children the stories of the companions of the Prophet, starting from the Prophets themselves to the Prophet's life, and then also teach them about the companions of the Prophet, how they overcame through difficulties. One by one, there's a 2-volume book by Abdul Wahid Hamid called Companions of the Prophet. Fantastic. Even you can bring it down to probably 7-8-year-olds if you read it yourself. But maybe when children become 12, 13, they can read it themselves. It's called Companions of the Prophet, Volume 1, and then there's Volume 2 by Abdul Wahid Hamid. Really great stories told in a modern way, in a way that children are able to read themselves and to gain lessons. But one of the key aspects you find when you read these stories is they're actually stories of resilience. Stories of young people, very often young men and women, who were able to bounce back from various difficulties they faced in their life. So this is something that will really help our children. Now, how do we develop this sense of resilience? Now, I want to put the next bit into 3 categories. Think about what kinds of things that you could do with your preschoolers, those who are very young, maybe under 4 years old. What kinds of things that you can do? First thing that you can do is model a sense of optimism, this optimistic behavior. You're not showing in front of them any problems that you're going through. Whenever something happens, you're always thinking about the positive. Positive language. Oh no, this thing fell in the kitchen. You're not saying, oh no, what's going to happen now? You know, how could this happen? No. Okay, you're immediately, and don't forget, young children are always watching you. They're kind of like sponge. They're sucking everything, single thing from you. This is why they learn behavior, they learn to speak and so on. So if you think about, when something goes wrong, how do you yourself respond? When you actually being able to model that response is something that's going to support this sense of bounce ball quality in the preschoolers. It could be the case that your car has broken down. Oh no, the car won't start. You could say, what can I do? Oh, maybe I can walk to the garage and somebody can fix it. Something's gone wrong. You are constantly, within your own language, in the way you are responding, you are showing that sense of optimism and sense of resilience. Set boundaries. This is really important, that part of the resilience is not to kind of go and try everything out and it's free for all. No, there are boundaries that we have to set even for younger children, and making those boundaries very, very clear. For example, maybe the child has gone and played quite dangerously with the television, or playing with the sockets. You could say it was dangerous for you to play with the plug or the TV, but try not to again here in the way that you respond to this. Very often I hear parents say, why do you have to be so disobedient? Why do you have to be so naughty? Now, for younger children, that kind of behavior has no meaning. And it only makes things worse, and you're not teaching anything. So just keep this in mind, that when you're responding in this way, why are you doing this? Why are you being like this? it teaches them nothing, and what they can see is that you're not able to cope with the situation. So if you go back to the coping mechanism, you are actually showing that it's something in a sense quite trivial in our everyday life, you can't cope with it. Whereas if you were to make it clear it was dangerous for you to play with the plug or the socket, okay, make that very clear and say, this is not something that we do, but you are giving a solution. This is something else that we can play with. Here is something else that we can do instead of this. So you are showing that sense of optimism. Allow your babies to explore. This is really, really important, especially nowadays. I know we're going to be in a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty, but it doesn't matter whatever the situation is. We need to allow the children to explore things. In the current situation, it will be within the confines of our house. Let them explore, let them try and make use of whatever resources they have available, and encourage them to play play alone sometimes. And one of the stories of article that I was reading is allowing children to be bored. There will be times when the children say, I am bored, I've got nothing to do. Fine. You don't always have to find something for them. Allow them to because there will be times when we ourselves will feel bored, and how do we deal with that? And what you might find, according to this research, that a lot of children actually in their boredom, they find things to do, they find more creative things to do. So you don't have to, as a parent, always finding within a constraint of a timetable, finding something to do all of the time. Of course, keep a timetable, keep those things that you need to do. But if you're filling in all of the gaps in the children's day, then you're not allowing for any kind of creativity. You're not really allowing them to kind of cope with a situation where they don't have something to do, for them to come up with initiatives. And this is even for your toddlers, for your younger children. For your school children, remind them about their strengths. Remind them about their strengths and talents. And please, 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 don't compare your siblings. I have a son and a daughter. They are very, very different from each other. They have different sense of temperament. They are interested in different things. One of them is interested in dinosaurs. Another one is interested in books. You know, you're going to be, my own siblings were very different from each other in many, many ways. So being different is a good thing between siblings. It's really important that we don't compare. He was able to get this for SATs and you can't do this. That kind of thing, even if you don't say it in those words, in your everyday expectation, it's really important that you manage that. You know, just encouraging them to think about the problems and to deal with them, help them to find help. You know, how do you think you've done this? How do you think you could do this better? Teach them to admit when they're wrong as well. And it's something that we ourselves have to do as well. You know, I was wrong about this, and I think I've learned this lesson. This could be a dinner table discussion where hopefully we're spending a lot of time around the dinner table. Make the dinner table discussion more fruitful by you maybe talking about a mistake that you made and how you dealt with it. It could be a problem that you are trying to solve. One of the discussions that we had within our family last week, a few days ago, is how was our day? Was it a productive day? How could we have made this day more productive? Another question that you could easily use around the dinner table is think about a kind act that you did today, and how did that help you? How did it make you feel? Talking about feelings is also really, really important. So encouraging them to be optimistic, acknowledge how they feel, is also part of building that resilience. It's sad that you can't see your friends, you might say. It's sad that you can't see your friends. What do you think you can do now? Maybe they could write to their friends, which they can send them off or keep them to show them. They can email their friends. They could call their friends. So there's different ways that they could find. One of the things I got my daughter to do is to write about the coronavirus. She called it Chronicles of Coronavirus. So she's writing a blog, just charting out her feelings and what's happening and how she could express her feelings. And this is one way, is helping her to build her own resilience and coping mechanism as well. So Especially now coming back to my third category. So I've done with the preschoolers and then those children who go to school, and finally with our teenage children. One of the things we have to do is allow an increased sense of privacy, although keeping some monitoring of where they are and who they're with and what they're doing on their mobile phones, but allowing them that sense of privacy is also really, really important. Allowing them to have discussions, and this is where the stage where Prophet ﷺ talks about befriending them. Now you are their friend much more than just showing them every little of the way. Involve them in decision making and explain to them how you are making your own decisions. So these are three categories that I wanted to deal with, and I want to kind of finish off our discussion on this bounce ball quality. If you look at, for example, Hajar ibn Ismail, Hajar, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when she was left with the baby in the Mount Safa, between Safa and Marwa, and how did she bounce back? We often forget that she was left there on her own, and she had this great quality of being resilient, being able to bounce back, having this bounce ball quality, to think, yes, I am relying on Allah. I know that I'm doing this for a prophet, but yet I've got to find something for my child. And she was able to show us her resilience in being able to deal with and to bounce back from what is a tough situation. And we forget that in these stories, there are great stories of resilience, of great men and women who are able to show that despite the difficulties, they could think very positively. They could think of hope that, inshallah, whatever the situation is with our children, and giving this message to our children constantly and reminding them that we will get through this, we will get over this, but hopefully, inshallah, with qualities that we have built over this period of time, so that when the doors begin to open, when the world begins to come out of lockdown, we are really able to cope with whatever else might come our way. I want to finish off with a saying who said, somebody once said, our greatest glory is not in never failing. It's not that we will never fail, but in rising every time we fall. May Allah give us tawfiq to really build that resilience and bounce ball quality in ourselves, and really, really importantly, to be able to teach that to our children so that they can then be prepared for whatever life may bring them. Wa akhi da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Keep safe.